and welcome everyone. My name's Ros Holding, and today's webinar is part of National Skills Week. Completing an education, most of us know, increases our likelihood of entering the workforce longer term, and generations today face a range of challenges due to technology change, changes in globalisation, employment trends and growing presence of automation in our world. And what we know from research and watching trends in the workplace is knowledge and skills in a specific area or field is only one aspect important to our successful career development. What people need are broader and different mix of skills compared to previous generations, and being a lifelong learner, adding to your skills and your toolkit throughout your career is highly advantageous. So for elite athletes who bring a unique set of skills, transferable skills are important and can leverage your career opportunities and your future employment. I'd like to introduce you to Lois Key-Smith, one of the 10 AIS career development practitioners working as part of the CPR network, supporting elite athletes. And she has a master's qualification in this field and has also been in private practice for over 14 years. Lois, I'd like to hand over to you today. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ros, and good morning to you. So today we're going to be talking about skills, as Ros has beautifully introduced, and I'm going to share some slides with you all to talk through some of the elements, and then Ros and I are going to have a bit of a chat at the end and have some Q&A as well. So I hope you find this valuable. I'm going to just share the first few slides here, and yeah, let's get going. So first of all, as Ros mentioned, employability is becoming increasingly complex. And it can be a little bit daunting to think, well, what do employers actually want? What do I have? How do I work out what I have? And then how do I, actually articulate that to an employer? And we can bandy around the term skills, and we hear things like soft skills, enterprise skills, transferable skills is a very commonly looked up item on Google because we hear these terms and we wonder, well, what do they really all mean? But ultimately, there's probably two categories of skills, and one is the technical skills to actually do the technical aspects of the job. So maybe, I don't know, if you're a computer person coding in using a particular JavaScript or something like that might be a technical skill. But there are also many, many employability skills that we need as well to be able to band these together. So the idea there that the slide shows is that there's a much higher degree of being employable if you can bring these employability skills, which are things that include soft skills. As I prefer the term maybe social skills is perhaps a nicer term, but we hear the term soft skills, but it's really leadership skills and people skills and interpersonal skills, intrapersonal skills. There's many, many that we'll go into a little bit more, but it also terms as enterprise skills of how you keep yourself moving and adapt, and also transferable skills, which we're going to talk a little bit more around the fact that if you see an advertisement saying you need all these skills, don't worry if you don't think you've got them all. You probably do. And that's where the CPRN can come in, the Career Practitioner Referral Network, to help you uncover those and then be able to articulate those to an employer. But ultimately, we can't have just employability skills. We also might obviously need to do the technical skills. So it's great to say I can chat to customers and make you a coffee and ask about your day. But if I can't actually use that machine and be a really good barista and make a good coffee, I'm probably not going to be in my barista job for very long. So you can see where the combination is really, really important. So let's have a further look at that. And yes, we've got major impacts, as Ros alluded to, around things that are making life a little bit difficult in terms of getting jobs. And we know, particularly in this time that we're in. So automation is a huge issue. The gig economy, which we all know, we've probably all ordered an Uber Eats or taken a share ride at some stage. So there's many, many more multiple jobs and portfolio careers. So it's becoming even more important that we know how to articulate our skills and be able to be adaptable and use them all in a combination. Of course, globalization as well. So skills across the board, and many platforms have launched, which are the gig economy and utilising people's skills across the world. And of course, employers and what they really want, and that's changing all the time as well. So we'll have a chat at the end about how we can maybe tap into knowing more about what employers really want. I mentioned those enterprise skills, and this is a slide from the Foundation for Young Australians, the New Basics report, where there are a few different enterprise skills that are being heralded as super, super important and things that employers are really after. So things like problem solving. Can you be someone that just doesn't say, oh, tell me what to do, but can actually think, well, what do we need to do here and how can I solve this problem? Naturally, communication skills, a massive, massive area. Digital literacy, so being willing to learn and to adapt and adopt digital technology. Teamwork, which of course a lot of time in sport we say, yes, teamwork, but what kind of teamwork, and can you give feedback, and how do you work with a team, can you lead? So there's many different elements within that. Presentation skills, because communication's gone to that next level, and interestingly here we are doing presentations not in physical form with a room full of people at the moment, so we have to all lift our game, don't we? Critical thinking, so blended with problem solving, but really being able to deep dive and find answers and research. And that's something that's not always taught in school in terms of really deep research. It's too easy, isn't it, to go to Google and go, what's the answer to this? So critical thinking of being able to discern and grab information and then discern what's the best information is quite a skill now, and really think deeply about that. Creativity, something maybe that the robots can't do so well, about coming up with things from your mind, from your heart, from your experiences, and creating in different ways, not necessarily art. So creativity and art, yes, they are blended, but you can be creative without being arty or artistic, we should say. And of course, financial literacy, because yes, the way that we create our livelihood and look after ourselves, but also grapple with quite complex information that's coming at us, it's really important that we're able to juggle our income sometimes, particularly if we are in that gig or portfolio economy or self-employed, which many people are starting to do. So today, really want to keep it simple in a way. It's about, you're all gaining skills. We're all gaining skills all the time. We can also transfer skills, and that really means thinking about, okay, if I am doing critical thinking, maybe in my assignments and my work in study, how can I transfer some of that over and tell an employer about what I can do for them? And not only that, but be able to articulate that. And that is really quite challenging, because many of us have many skills, but we don't always know what we have. And we maybe think, well, that's not important. Who does an employer really care about that? So once we realise what we've got, the goal that we've got, it's then a matter of saying, how can we explain, show, demonstrate, have someone else tell an employer so that we can get hired? And you can see I've got that down the bottom. Get hired is probably the name of the game here, isn't it? It's get hired and be able to look after ourselves and our livelihoods. Interesting, I'm asked a lot around, well, what skills are super important? And this is quite an interesting slide from the Future of Jobs report, the World Economic Forum, that in 2015, these were the top skills. I'll read that out. So complex problem solving was up the top, coordinating with others, people management, critical thinking, negotiation, quality control, service orientation, judgment and decision making, active listening and creativity. Yet in 2020, and of course this may have even changed a little bit more, I suspect, up the top still complex problem solving, and gee, we have some complex problems to solve, don't we? Next, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others. I think that might move up, don't you think? Coordinating with others, different stakeholders, different issues that we're grappling with in the modern age. Emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. So you can see that many of these top skills are around how you grapple with information, how you help other people understand, and how you work in with other people. And I thought it was interesting that in 2015 we went from active listening, so listening and feeding back to people and really getting the essence of what they're talking about, to emotional intelligence. So number 6 there, and active listening has actually dropped away, and emotional intelligence is rising. So really working on our internal thought processes and how we deal with ourselves, but also how we relate to other people, is super, super important. And the great news is we can get that in sport a lot of the time, and also from the outside world. And we'll talk later about some other aspects of where you can pick up and gain these skills, because they're not always learnt and taught regularly in the institutions that we might seek them from. So get ready to transfer. We might hear this a lot, that many skills from sport and life are transferable to the workplace. This is very true, but we can't be too glib about it. So it's very common that athletes, particularly in team sports, might say, well, I'm a good team player, so that transfers to the workplace. And that's great. But many people can say that. So really what the Career Practitioner Referral Network, what we love to help you do is identify some of these transferable skills, maybe from life, from volunteering, from home, from sport, and be able to say, why is this important, and what aspects of these skills that I've learnt and done and experienced are really going to help the employer. So it's, funnily enough, not always about us and our skills. It's about what the employer values and what they would really want to see from your experiences and your skill set. So it can be tricky, and we can sometimes think, oh, well, that's not an important skill, that's not an important skill. But again, if you can chat to people, make them feel comfortable, that emotional intelligence type of skill, you're probably going to be a better barista, just using my barista example again, than someone who's really technically brilliant at it but can't engage the customers. Because remember, the employer wants customers who come back and feel loved and looked after, and then they're going to come back even if the coffee's pretty good but not excellent. So, so thinking about the employer and really what they really need and how much you can demonstrate. And obviously that's quite an easy skill to demonstrate, because you might go into an interview or someone might say, hey, Jane's a really great person at interacting with people, maybe you should talk to her, and I hear she's got a barista certificate as well. So that's just an example. Okay, so let's move on. And I've got a couple of little examples here. So this one is, for example, that you might have volunteered for a fundraising campaign. So remember, skills, yes, you can get them in TAFE and you can get them in all sorts of courses, and you can build skills in your sport and you can build skills in life, but also volunteering is a really great way. So I've just used as an example here that maybe you volunteered for a fundraising campaign. So you've posted on social media, you're calling past donors, you're doing all those great things, and you raised $12,000 for the campaign. Fantastic. You've probably, got some great teammates that you've enrolled as well to help you do that. So there are so many transferable skills and so many different places where you could articulate those skills and talk to employers about that. So obviously fundraising, marketing, social media, there's those sales skills that you've been developing, so high emotional intelligence, client, customer or donor liaison. So even if you've worked with a donor before and asked for money and gained it, that means you can also transfer those skills to a customer or to a client. So sometimes we can get a bit mode locked and think, well, I've only done it in this place. That's okay. It is transferable to other industries and other employers. CRM is a client relationship management system or customer relationship management system, depending. So if you've even kept a very simple record on some software, then you can talk about how you've learned that and how you can learn another system, because you're adaptable as well. Resilience in the face of no. I think that this is a commonly overlooked transferable skill that many athletes have. It's maybe not necessarily a no, but it can be at times. But it's winning, it's losing, it's going forward, sometimes taking a few steps back, it's injury. There's many things that are faced in the world of sport that maybe regular people in regular jobs don't always experience. So that's something you can talk about, but rather than just saying, oh, I know how it feels when I lose, it's not that, or I'm really elated when I win. It's actually talking about how you handle that and that those thought processes. So thinking back to that critical thinking, that emotional intelligence, those top skills, how can you articulate that in a way that the employer says, wow, so you mean when you put the phone down and someone said no to you, you're going to get right back on the phone, if that in fact is your role to do that. And I've popped down there also recruitment of volunteers, because being able to enrol others is a massive leadership skill and something that many people overlook, that they haven't really thought about as being important. But being able to bring people over and influence and make people feel enrolled and engaged is a massive skill that's very valued in the workplace as well. So that's just one example. Here's another one that you might have actually experienced yourself, where you're called upon to give feedback in a presentation to your team members on the topic of professionalism. And that might be because some people haven't been professional perhaps, or just that it's reinforcing that there are many stakeholders that support your journey as an athlete, and and that's, you know, it could be sponsors, it's parents, it's friends, it's people who support you, you know, in cheering you on, as well as financially and many other things. So this might be a really important thing you've been asked to do. Some of the transferable skills there, obviously leadership, that you're standing up and being willing to put yourself out there and talk about this. Also your communication skills, public speaking especially, but even thinking about how you're going to portray that message so that it lands really well. Team building and culture, brand awareness. So you're not just talking to them about being professional, you're really realizing that the colors you wear and who you represent are really important, and learning about that. Professional development, of course. Conflict resolution. Some people might say, what do you mean? We're all professional. And you might have to dig deeper. So you're using those emotional intelligence and communication skills very deeply, and also giving feedback, which in the workplace employers really value. And it's also a leadership skill, being able to give people very, very thoughtful feedback, but do it in a way that it lands well with them. So again, emotional intelligence coming in there too. So they're just two examples, one from volunteering and one from perhaps a team sport, as examples there. So how can you, we've used this word articulate, and Ros and I was saying it's a bit of a fancy word really, isn't it? But it really just means, how do you speak or write or communicate your skills to an employer? But often I think you need to demonstrate them. And you know, for many athletes, this is like, oh good, I'm glad about that. So there's many ways you can go around this. And look, you know, I've put it second, the good old resume and the targeted cover letter, and certainly as a CPRN, ask for a referral if you're really sweating about your applications. We can help, we can guide you. We've got great resources, and we can also look them over for you if that's what you need. But don't forget that sometimes it's a demonstration and test. And just, you know, using the barista example, most cafes, when they hire a barista, they say, make me a cup of coffee. In fact, I have a friend who ran 3 cafes, and she said that's what I got them to do. That was their interview, as well as, of course, chatting to them a little bit as well. But that was really how you do things. So thinking about demonstrations and tests, always being prepared, asking first, what is it that you'd like me to do? And then you can prepare and practice and practice and practice so that you can do that demonstration or test really well. So I mentioned the resume and letter, and that's really important when I say targeted. Again, yes, it's about your skills, but it's about how your skills meet the employer. So we do need to know what they want. Trials are very common. So come and work for a couple of hours and we'll test you out. So that's a little bit like the demonstration. But think about also skilled volunteering. Yes, you know, the sausage sizzle's great, or that sort of volunteering of going and selling the raffle tickets. But also think about skilled volunteering. You've already got some skills you've identified. How can you put them to use? So if you're great on that customer relationship management database, that CRM, what about going to your favourite charity and saying, wow, maybe you need your CRM updated and need some help there. This is something I have as a skill. Can I help you? Because guess what happens there? That gets added to your resume, and that might also be a nice reference for you later on from that person who's so grateful for your skilled help. Visibility, that's about your skills being apparent. And sometimes we have great skills, but we hide them. And this might even be, I don't know, if you're really quick on your feet and you can dish and dash around and, you know, showing how much energy you've got, or how, you know, flexible you are. If you're a gymnast perhaps, or a diver, there's a beautiful picture here, that maybe you can show how flexible you are. So you can reach up to that cabinet up the top, or you can, you know, do things that other people maybe can't do. So I'm using it in a little bit of a humorous sense, I guess, of your visibility, but it might even be doing a YouTube clip and showing how quickly you can do a task, just as an example. But visibility is also about your skills being apparent. So things on like LinkedIn, you can list your skills and people can search for people with particular skills. So not hiding away, making sure that you're visible and people can find you. And lastly, asking for opportunities, referrals, introductions. I've put reviews and testimonials there because we mentioned the gig economy and that many skills are purchased, like just that skill. So again, if we use the database CRM example, if you're a real gun on that and you know a particular software that not many people know, you can get some testimonials, reviews. You can even go on a platform, or people can look you up on LinkedIn and go, wow, you know that particular software, I need your help. So you can actually get a lot of opportunities that way, and get other people telling other people about your great skills as well. So again, that articulation and people knowing what they are and understanding them and how they land with an employer, they're able to be your champions and advocates for you as well. So the key word there probably is ask. And if you're a little bit shy about that or not sure how to go about that, again, we can help you. So there are so many learning options. How do we actually get these skills? I've said that they come from life, they come from sport, they come from so many different areas. But of course, you also want to pick up those technical skills, and that may mean some extra training more formally. So of course, TAFE, and we're in Skills Week, and TAFE and the vet pathways, fantastic opportunities to gain amazing skills from really brilliant people who've got lots and lots of experience to share with you, and a curriculum that's developed interestingly with training industry councils who are set up to talk to employers and say, well, what is it you're looking for, and where are the gaps? Where are our graduates not, meeting the mark? And then they in turn work with the training providers to make sure that that's put into the curriculum. So you've got a very dynamic environment there where people aren't just learning an old skill that then the employer says, well, this isn't any good. We need new and modern ways. It's continually being updated. So of course, don't forget private training providers, particularly for very specialty areas, and of course university. And certainly in Skills Week, you learn many skills at university too, but tends towards more the theory side of things at times, depending on the course. So it's something to bear in mind if you are thinking about building up your skill set, is where do you want to go, and checking into these courses and asking for assistance with that if you need. Of course, you can also go to short courses in formal learning, and I've got some down there about Udemy, Coursera. YouTube's great. My dad actually learned how to tile the bathroom because it was a tiny little piece he needed, and he couldn't find anyone who would come out and quote him. So said, Dad, check out YouTube, and he was very, very proud of himself when he managed to learn from YouTube. So, we can all learn skills, can't we? Even things we don't think we can learn. Get a tutor, get a mentor, get someone to show you the skill and actually do it with you if you're more of a practical learner. And of course, I've mentioned volunteering, but even work, casual work, part-time work, volunteering, you can gain skills by doing. So learning by doing is a classic way to pick up skills as well. And it's not on the bottom as if it's the least important, but starting a business. We talked about those enterprise skills, but why not actually be enterprising? And you can learn so much from starting a business, even if it doesn't go well, even if it's hard. You can learn so much from that experience, and wow, you'll have, lines and lines and lines and lines of skills that you can add from doing that. So consider that and ask for help again if you want to do something in the area of starting your own business or being self-employed. So we've talked a little bit about skills and how you can get them and how you can articulate them. It's not always easy, and sometimes it's not easy to know what the employer is really looking for as well. So the Career Practitioner Referral Network, CPRN for short, people like myself and as Roz said, a team of 10 of us at the moment around the country to help you find those skills. So actually help ask some questions and uncover, well, what are your skills? Oh, what about that one? What about that one? And many people say, oh, I never thought of that. So we can be a bit of a, extracting those skills from you and helping you find them. Then talking about those transferable skills as well. Well, the company wants this. How can we find something similar and explain how it's similar and how it transfers over, and then being able to articulate your skills, which again is in a myriad of different ways, but especially documentation, and then at interview and those other ways and demonstrations and things that I talked about before. So I'm going to, while we're talking about the Career Practitioner Referral Network, hand back to Roz, who actually set this up with all of us, and to talk a little bit more about this area. So I'll unshare. Thanks, Roz.
Thanks, Lois. That's fantastic. It's such a great topic for National Skills Week, and it really hits the mark. So I've got a couple of questions for you, actually, which often get asked to me. So I'd love to hear your view. If you do manage to land an interview with an employer, how will an employer then manage your skills, aside from looking at your CV?
Yes, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because the CV is just a record, and often they really want to find out, well, what skills do you actually have, and are you going to be successful? If they give you the job, are you going to be successful? So that's a great question, Roz. And I think there's different ways that different employers like to do this, but many will, in a way, test you out. And I've heard of lots of different things where there's formal tests given or little tests given. Like, could you just add these to this spreadsheet, or get them to do a little bit of a task. Maybe it's even, oh, sorry, our interview can't happen in this place. maybe can we get online, and can you share your screen and show me your resume? So you go, oh wow, okay, I have to learn how to do this. So there's some skills that you might just find you get called upon to use, or you might be handed something or asked to assist with something. So that demonstration or test can be overt, where you know that it's a test and you've been asked to do sometimes the psychometric testing, to see how you think and how you perform. But it might be, can you write a response? This customer's written in a complaint, can you write the response? And you'll be given a little bit of time to do that. So that can certainly happen, is that sort of testing type of area. But also behavioural questioning in interviews, where you're asked to give an example of where you've used that skill before, and that can be very important, to not just say, oh yeah, I've done that lots, but actually say, well, I've used that CRM a lot, but then I came across this new software and it was very different. So what I did, I took the manual home, I poured over it, so you're telling them there that you're dedicated, you work things out, you're a critical problem solver, you'll do extra hours if you need to bring yourself up to speed because the employer expected you to have that maybe. So they're the sorts of things with answering questions, always thinking, what are they asking me really? And trying to get behind that when you demonstrate, when you're wanting to demonstrate those skills. So they're just a couple of examples. I think there's probably many more. I've certainly been on the receiving end of an interview where I needed to counsel in front of a fictitious client and people watched on, and I needed to give an example of a crisis and how it would impact different people. And then I also had usual questions as well. So you can have anything thrown at you, actually.
You can definitely. Yeah, no, that's great, Lois. And I suppose just on to that then, the other question is, some of the job advertisements you see might have a really long list of skills. If you don't have all of those skills, is it worth putting an application in?
Definitely. The thing is, very rarely does anyone have all of them. And it's a real shame if you look and think, oh, no, I don't have number 8 and I have half of number 9 out of the whole 10, so I'm not going to apply. I would always say that you probably know more than you think. And that's where we can be a really great sounding board for you. But also, absolutely think about whether you can think about how you can articulate what it is you really do. I think it's a tricky one. I mean, you've been a recruiter, Roz, so you've been in that space yourself, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I guess, from a HR perspective, you could be in front of a recruiter, you could be in front of a HR person, and you could be in front of the CEO. So it's also working out what the audience wants and what they're asking for. So I think that's a really critical thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do you then learn what employers are looking for? Because that kind of leads to that. How do you learn what your audience or your employer needs and wants?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd probably say as an ad, tap into the CPRN, of course, because we're reading those newsletters, we're nosy and looking, and we're interested in that. So certainly tap into us. But I'd say actually ask employers directly sometimes. Like if you think, wow, I really want to work in this area of robotics and automation, what is it they're really looking for? And if you're thinking of several courses and then you're thinking, I don't know which one to pick, ask an employer, ask someone who knows an employer in that space and say, look, if you were hiring, which course would you, which ones do you rate most, for example, or should I learn this before this? And so it's actually getting that right from the horse's mouth, as we might say. But I think there's also, I mentioned the training industry councils and those sorts of bodies. So we're often not aware of those things, but you can actually contact them as well. Contact professional associations. That's a really good one as well. Many people are unaware, pardon me, that professional associations exist in nearly every industry and profession. So you can go to them and say, what is it? What are the current skills that people are looking for? And often there are published lists and things like that, as we've shown today. But there's also just that, that kind of anecdotal, where people say, oh, wow, we're just not getting anyone with this skill. And you're thinking, right, how can I get that skill? So it's really, I think ask is probably the key term there, whether it's us, industry councils, TAFE, like ask the question and almost don't give up until you get what you need.
So lots of problem solving skills just to actually get to that point. So that's
Correct.
high on the priority list. So that's great. Lois, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. And if you'd like to work on your skills and uncover and leverage those with the CPRN, have a chat to your AW&E manager, and they can arrange a referral through to the CPRN network, or you can take a look at the AIS website. And we'd like to thank you very much for joining us today. And on behalf of Lois and myself, enjoy National Skills Week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.